All right, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining our session today. AI for admins. Really excited about this, giving you some more details about how to automate your Salesforce org management. For those of you who have never met me before, I've been about 11 years in the Salesforce ecosystem, helped grow a consulting partner from about 20 people up to a platinum partner of 1,500, Traction on Demand, which was acquired by Salesforce in 2022. Since then, I've been focused on building out Hubbl Technologies as co-founder and chief strategy officer. I've worked with well over 600 customers in that time at Traction days, and also had a lot of really fun projects, including building the first version of Net Zero Cloud with Salesforce, which led to a Partner Innovation Award. But prior to the Salesforce ecosystem, spent about 10 years inside of the US Department of Energy and started doing my first AI projects about 20 years ago. We were doing machine learning, classification, neural networks projects on projects of national security performance importance at Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory, and then moved on to the SLAC National Accelerator Laboratory at Stanford. And so a lot of that thinking and mindset is what's building and the basis of the machine learning platform that we built at Hubbl Technologies. So we heard at Dreamforce all kinds of exciting details around Agentforce and how those agents can help you execute tasks inside of your business. But let's think a little bit bigger. What if AI could actually help you build your business faster? So, I mean, think about this. Businesses are built around processes that are designed by humans and empowered by technology. And so we spend a huge amount of time growing our businesses, and we're all trying to build them faster, smarter, and more efficiently. And this is everything, includes everything from business schools, consultants, business modeling, process workshops, you name it. If AI could actually help us accelerate building businesses, this would be more jobs and prosperity for everyone. And this is the journey we're on at Hubbl Technologies. And in no way are we alone here. Salesforce admins are at the core of this enablement. And I want to thank all the ecosystem partners, the MVP communities, Salesforce employees, the Salesforce customer base themselves for working with us to bring this to life. And now with our incredible partners at Swantide, we're inviting you to join this movement of thousands that are already democratizing success. And so what's really interesting is how did we actually get here to this moment? So our CEO, Rob Acker, just announced prior to Dreamforce was on the ground in the early days of the cloud era, selling into the earliest customers of Salesforce. For over 24 years, he's been helping businesses grow in the cloud and even growing the SMB and Salesforce.org businesses. And if you think about it, what cloud computing did was extraordinary. There was no hardware, no software. The multi-tenant architecture made it highly secure with enterprise capabilities available for everyone, and it really leveled the playing field for businesses of all sizes. But what's really cool, though, is now we're in this special moment where there's over 150,000. There's actually, even at Dreamforce, they were saying 200,000 businesses have been built on top of this common framework, the multi-tenant architecture of Salesforce. And what does that mean? It means that Salesforce has provided a templated structure for building a business. The core metadata is basically the way the business is set up in the cloud. And that's granted when you get a license and you actually purchase those licenses from Salesforce. So for example, if you purchase Service Cloud versus Revenue Cloud, you get a different set of metadata. And then many businesses, what they do is they go on and they customize, and they customize the native objects and fields and beyond that to fit their business needs. And what this means is that the metadata in each business is a mix of the common metadata provided by Salesforce and the custom metadata that defines each unique business's processes. And so the way I like to think about this is that the custom metadata in a Salesforce org is a consequence of all the human decisions that went in to build those processes. And if you looked at all of those in aggregate, you can access the collective wisdom of humans building businesses of over 150,000 or more. And what's interesting about this is that it provides completely new opportunities to learn about business building. And being trained as a scientist myself, I saw this as a new opportunity to identify business process patterns and outliers that could actually accelerate business building by providing insights to those humans in the loop that are actually making those business decisions. But don't take it from me or us. Take it from Mark Benioff himself. This is some results of some research I did. I've been listening to the Salesforce earnings calls for over 10 years now. And back in February, I was astounded. Mark Benioff kept mentioning the word metadata, and I just couldn't believe it. It was so startling that I went back and did a whole bunch of research and looked at all the transcripts of the Salesforce earnings calls. And what I found is that those Mark had never mentioned the word metadata prior to that earnings call, where he mentioned it 26 times. The 5 previous mentions had been made by the CTO, for example. And so this is clearly incredibly important to Mark's business, Salesforce, as well as all of our businesses. And so if we want to actually unlock this new era of predictive intelligence, we're going to actually need to analyze all the businesses built on Salesforce, about 150,000 of them, right? And if you know, a lot of you have obviously been inside of the Salesforce setup menu. That's a lot of metadata to look at. And we can actually think about this for a moment. Our research, our annual benchmark report research, we've shown that the average org has about 27,000 pieces of metadata inside of it. And we did a quick calculation where if you clicked through and went into setup and looked at all that metadata for 27,000 pieces, it would take you over 4 days to click through that. If you did that for 150,000 businesses, it would take you 1,600 years of effort to just click and look at each piece of metadata for 5 seconds. And that's an incredible number. And this doesn't include any analysis, interpretation, decision-making, learning about how these businesses are built. And so what you can do, actually, if I think about it, you could actually calculate, that's just for one business doing this. If all of these businesses, these 150,000 businesses wanted to do it, it would take 240 million years of human efforts to look at the way those businesses are built in the cloud. There must be a better way, and there is a better way, and it stems back to all that research I was doing back in the Department of Energy days. If we had a way to analyze business metadata in an aggregated and anonymized, secure manner without accessing any PII, any compromising any data, we could unleash a completely new era of predictive intelligence by guiding the business builders everywhere. And this is what we've been building at Hubbl Technologies. Now, beyond the scale of the data and effort here, there's actually another challenge that's really at the core of Salesforce administrators and where they live in their day-to-day. And that is that our research has found that at least 20% of the metadata in a Salesforce org has no description. So what does this mean? Over 5,500 per org on average. What this means is that even if a business wants to start adopting AI, they're not entirely ready for it because the AI is accessing metadata that has no descriptions. It's not going to be to operate as accurately as it could be. And so even though there was a common framework for these customizations that were built on top of that Salesforce common framework, they were not well documented. And many reasons contributed to this, but basically in general, there's a lack of motivation because the system simply worked. And there was no motivation. There was a lack of motivation there. And so if you're interested in more stats like this, every year we publish a benchmark report. Our 2024 benchmark report has landed. You can access it directly on our website. You don't need to download anything. Just go to hubbl.com/BMR and you can check out everything there. So like I said, AI has changed the scene. Businesses are now scrambling to get their metadata, data, and processes in order to take advantage of AI, and businesses just can't ignore it anymore. It's very clear that innovation needs a game plan. And so for those Salesforce administrators or product owners out there, hope isn't the game plan, waiting isn't the game plan. As an admin, there's a couple of key areas you could focus on: restoring and maintaining your org health, and then learning from the best through the power of AI. And so if we look at restoring your org health, you want to monitor that health, communicate visually, and really the important thing here is to understand the changes that your team and your partners and your AI are actually making in your org, so that everyone, whether it's the implementers all the way up to the C-suite, are actually on the same page and understand the impacts there. The core is that you need a strong foundation so that you can move quickly on business priorities and then act upon those learnings to figure out what to do next. And then in terms of learning from the best, you want to leverage AI. You want to leverage benchmarks. You want to leverage predictive intelligence. You want to leverage generative AI so that you don't need to reinvent the wheel on the common next steps in the process itself. So how do we actually execute on this game plan? This is where platforms like Hubbl Technologies and Swantide actually come in. First, let's just focus on this concept of restoring and maintaining org health. Our recommendation engine makes it easy to actually monitor orgs adherence to best practices, security, compliance. It identifies optimization opportunities. And the goal is honestly just to simply prioritize what to do next, give you that game plan, organized by the risk severity, as well as the level of effort to actually make those improvements. So this creates this beautiful matrix that our customers love, where you can identify the low-hanging fruit and move across and quickly secure the org, as well as identify new optimization opportunities. And this was built closely in collaboration with Salesforce, and it's aligned to the Salesforce well-architected framework, which was soft launched at TDX 22. As soon as we saw that, we started building it directly into our product, and have even done workshops and webinars with the Salesforce well-architected team as well. In addition to the static rules that are in there, there's all kinds of different capabilities inside of the platform. We'll dig into here in a minute. We can identify field utilization outliers. We identify packages that are out of compliance, that are out of date. We offer you trend analysis, adoption of clouds, packages, custom objects, even gamifying adoption of new technologies like Flow. The key is that Hubbl actually helps you understand where the complexities and the optimization opportunities lie. And then our integration with Swantide actually helps you implement them automatically and generate documentation, for example. So check this out. Basically, with the combination of Hubbl Diagnostics and Swantide, you can, in minutes, create an account directly from the website, analyze your org, and get insights into places, for example, that don't have documentation. Like I said, there's 5,500 in the average org. This is a massive amount of time it would take for an admin to generate, analyze, identify, figure out what this particular piece of metadata is doing, generate a description, and then providing that description to Salesforce again to describe that so that the AI can actually leverage it. Now you could actually run this in a couple minutes, identify all those issues, use the pre-prepared prompts that connect with the Swantide integration, and actually generate the documentation for you for those descriptions automatically. This is a massive time saver for Salesforce administrators that are focusing on building AI. So for example, if you're looking at the case object here, maybe you need to build a new agent focused on the case object. You want to make sure all that metadata is documented before you start implementing that so that you can get the best results from your agents. Another great example is the security issues. So a lot of customers don't understand that Salesforce is extremely secure, but if you're building custom code on Salesforce, or maybe you're a click-to-code admin who has hired custom developers to build custom code in Salesforce, what this allows you to do is actually identify those security issues, because you are responsible for securing that custom code. And what we've seen is across orgs, we're seeing huge amounts of SOCL injection issues. So basically hackers can extract data from your org, especially if it's in Experience Cloud. We see over 200 plus CRUD violations in the average org. And here's an example where we've identified this issue leveraging Hubbl Diagnostics. We use the pre-built prompts to generate the actual code that can be used to solve that particular issue, and then deploy that to fix that issue in your particular org. Obviously, you want the human in the loop here to evaluate that AI generated code so that you can be most successful there. And what's really cool about this is that you can proactively track and nurture your org optimization. So it's not just about restoring the health of your org, it's maintaining the health of the org and tracking it over time. So the way Hubbl Diagnostics works is you can set this up to schedule and run scans automatically. So you just get email notifications when things, new recommendations are popping up. But you can see here, each one of these dots is a new scan over time. And so this particular customer identified some high security issues. They spun up a project to fix those, generated that code, deployed it, and now those high severity issues are all fixed. And it's really easy to communicate to executives that we've cleared out our high severity, high risk issues in our org. And then you're monitoring over time, and you can see there's this bump up in recommendations that have automatically landed inside of Hubbl Diagnostics. Now you can go through the issue lifecycle, dig into those, and identify, hey, there's been a new release from Salesforce, so some of our API versions have gotten a bit older, a bit stale, but also some users created some reports that don't have any descriptions. Now, with the Swanton integration, you can just generate those descriptions, get those filled in, so that you have a better performing Salesforce org overall. Now, we're talking about a lot of optimizing org health. One of the key things, like I said, is that we're implementing business process inside of Salesforce, and we want to understand the impact that we've made with those business processes. That's the core of what we are all doing inside of Salesforce and running our businesses, because businesses are defined by a collection of processes designed and executed by humans or AI and empowered by technology. And so now we want to actually measure the actual business process change and adoption and easily communicate it with the rest of the business. And so with the Hubbl Process Analytics App Exchange app, we can actually visualize how businesses are executing on these processes and resolve bottlenecks, accelerate business process workshops, all inside of Salesforce. And this is for the first time with no data preparation, and you can do this in minutes. So what am I actually showing you here? So this is the case object. And this is a visualization generated from Hubbl Process Analytics, where you can see for this particular org, each one of these boxes is the status on the case. And then each of these arrows is how each of the cases for the entire history of the org have gone from open to closed. And so what you can see here is with these arrows, you can identify these bottlenecks. So here we've got a 2-week delay. This red arrow is showing us there's a hotspot here that we might want to dig into. Now think about this. You've all done those business process workshops where you're engaging with stakeholders and walking through that. You know, maybe you're using Lucidchart or Visio, your favorite charting platform, to figure out what the process is that they think is happening in the business. Many times, in fact, almost every time, all of the processes are not captured properly, and you end up designing a solution based on incomplete information. You roll out something, and it doesn't account for these outliers that you never even knew were happening. Now, with Hubbl Process Analytics, you can accelerate that engagement, identify the key bottlenecks, dig in deeper on those particular processes, and get you to a place where you can get a better designed. For example, let's take advantage of Dreamforce. Right now, you can design an agent that can solve this problem and accelerate the business more quickly. So once you spin up that agent or that new automation, then what you want to do is you actually want to measure the impact. So remember, this is what was happening when we first were aligned with the business. Now we've actually rolled out, we've made a change, we've launched the agent, and now we can actually take a look at what's happened since we've launched. And what we're seeing now is that it's only taking 4 days for this particular step, and we've actually cut 10 days off of our average duration for our cases. And if this is in a call center scenario, this is a massive savings. It's a huge win for the business, and it's really easy to communicate to executives the type of impact that your work is being done inside of Salesforce, which makes it so everybody wins. You can also see there's another view here that just layers the two over top, where you can see side by side sort of the before after of those implementations, and allows you to do it in a single view if you chose to do it that way. And what's really cool about this is that you're actually able to measure the real business impact of the changes you're making, whether it's your humans that are doing it or whether it's the AI that's actually doing it itself. So that's all about restoring, maintaining org health, monitoring, tracking change and adoption. But let's talk about using AI to identify what's next for those humans that are overseeing the AI in the org. What we're doing here is we are actually helping you identify what's next. And so what you're seeing here is actually the most in-depth package analysis you can get in the Salesforce ecosystem. We analyze not only the adoption of how businesses are using packages, but also the clouds inside of Salesforce. The algorithm can see how businesses are using clouds all the way down to the object and field level. And then we surface insights, for example, install packages to those admins and architects inside of Salesforce. And so this package insights is really interesting, because the way to think about this, for those of you who are around in the sort of the Netflix red envelope days, Netflix was collecting all kinds of information about movies that people were watching, then recommending movies to others who had watched similar movies. This is essentially like a Netflix for businesses, where we understand businesses with similar setups that are using packages and recommending those packages to you, and you can actually provide feedback directly in the product, whether you think this is a good recommendation or not. We're not saying that you should install this package, we're just providing it as an insight for you to be able to interpret and evaluate as something that could accelerate your business. And this isn't limited to just packages. We're talking about the next cloud, the next process object, the next field, even the next field you should encrypt in your org. Essentially what you're doing is you're tapping into that collective wisdom of all those businesses, all those humans that have been building businesses in the cloud. And what this means is that you essentially have an architect's insight right at your fingertips by leveraging Hubbl Diagnostics. We can even take this even a level higher. So remember back in those, like 20 years ago, I was doing classification, clustering experiments, AI-driven projects of national security importance. Now we're taking this to the place where we're doing it with businesses, and this is really exciting. So, like I said, Hubbl has built a platform that allows us to get an anonymized view of how businesses are set up in the cloud. And what you're seeing here is actually a clustering of businesses based on their metadata. And so we can actually better serve predictive intelligences to those businesses based on their business process and the way that they're actually scaling. And what this means is that we don't need to know what these businesses are, but the algorithm actually finds the nearest neighbors and that are similar to them. And what we've done here is just chosen a small subset of businesses so that you can visualize how this actually works. So how do you actually interpret this for if you've never seen clustering before? What this means is that we actually analyze these clusters. You can see these businesses are clustered together. We take a look at them. We can identify that these are actually financial services related companies. These green ones are nonprofit, and the yellow ones are sort of media relations types companies. And on the other side, you can see some banking and sales operations clusters. So what does this actually mean? What it means is that when the next Salesforce is analyzed by Hubbl, it lands somewhere in these clusters, and it gets served recommendations that are well suited to its configuration. And in short, regardless of the type of business being built, this new era of predictive intelligence improves the relevancy of the architectural insights that are actually delivered to the users of Hubbl. Now, another really great example of what to build next is objects. So we all build these, custom objects in Salesforce, and remember, businesses are all customizing their business, but many of them are customizing them in a similar way, even though they may not be in the same industry. And so, like I said, been in the consulting industry for over 11 years. Many businesses feel like they're a unicorn initially, and then they realize that they just need to build things that have been built before and in a fairly similar way, and they want to accelerate that process. This is what the Hubbl Technologies platforms brings to you. So essentially, an example here is the top 10 custom objects built in the platform. You can actually check this out in the Hubbl Diagnostics benchmark report that I had mentioned earlier. So if we just look at the invoice is this common object. It's got a bunch of common fields that have been built in a whole series of Salesforce orgs. And those common fields, what's really interesting about this is here's a selection of fields that are often built on these custom objects titled invoice. And so we can even go down into the field level and get an understanding of the different field types that are used. And so from there, think about the account objects. Lots of businesses add the account to an invoice object, but not everyone is adding this as a lookup or a master detail, or some of them are even as text. And this is the type of insight that an architect uses to design and build new capabilities on the Salesforce platform. And in the consulting world, this is obviously oftentimes an internal engagement from the hive mind of the consultancy itself. But now this is something that you have access to at your fingertips with the Hubbl Technologies platform. And so what's really cool is that these objects can now be served to an architect as an inspiration. It's an idea about where to take their business next and validate what they were thinking about how to build their business. And then taking it to the next level, you can use the Swan-Tide templated workflows to actually build those objects and processes directly inside of Salesforce. And so what's really cool about this is that you don't need to spend all this time completely reinventing the wheel. You can actually use inspiration or architect insights to identify what to build next. And what you're essentially doing is leveraging that collective wisdom of all those business building across architectural business process across the Salesforce orgs that we've analyzed. All right, so how do you access this type of capabilities? So diagnostics and process analytics, two pieces here. Diagnostics is a platform that you can sign up to directly from our website, or you can use the QR code here. Hubbl Process Analytics, it just takes a couple minutes to set up. Hubbl Process Analytics is an App Exchange app that you can install in your org, directly access from the App Exchange. Both of these, if you want to leverage both of these types of capabilities, you can do that for less than $10,000 for your entire business. And then if you've got, if you're a nonprofit, you can actually get a 50% discount as well. So at Traction on Demand Days, we built the largest nonprofit consultancy. So we're very excited to continue the impact for nonprofits throughout the ecosystem. All right, so what I would like to do now, so I've given you a sense of sort of where the product is coming from. I want to give you a sense of what the product looks and feels like, so you have an understanding of the Hubbl Technologies platform as a whole. So let's take a look at diagnostics first. So diagnostics is a platform where, like I said, you sign up from our website, it creates an account. We're hosted inside of Experience Cloud, and that allows you to run scans against your org. Once you've run a scan against an org, you get access to a series of interactive dashboards that allow you to leverage the capabilities of org optimization, predictive intelligence, and the ability to use Gen AI to generate code fixes and documentation fixes. The other thing that is amazing about this is you can actually leverage, if you're an enterprise who is working with consulting partners and maybe you have some prospective consulting partners you'd like to work with, you can actually get them to send a scan request, which is essentially sending an email, which gives you the most secure metadata audit to your prospective consulting partners, so you can get more accurate estimates from your consulting partners without them having access to your org. So they won't access the data in your org, and they won't access any of the PAI information in your org. And what's incredible about this is that it provides the most secure metadata audit in the Salesforce ecosystem, and it generally leads to customer success and less projects going sideways because you're starting from a much better place to start with. So if we look through some of these results, we talked about this concept of benchmarking orgs. You can understand where an org stands relative to all the orgs inside of the ecosystem. Here's an average of the amount of complexity built on top of an org. This particular org is more complex than the average, and its overall health score is a little less than you'd like it to be. It's sitting at about fair because it has some technical debt issues inside of there. We also look at adoption, how you're leveraging your Salesforce licenses and clouds. We've classified the thousands of objects in the Salesforce ecosystem, so you can get an understanding of what you're leveraging and not leveraging using the licenses that you have actually paid for. We can do a deep dive in those licenses as well. We talked about how, when you augment an org, you're adding packages to an org. This is a really critical one, a very unique capability in Hubbl Technologies. It allows us to identify packages that are out of date. This is an incredible discovery that we had in our benchmark report research, where we identified that 99% of Salesforce orgs have out-of-date packages in them. And it really makes sense. We all run our lives on these devices. These devices tell us, we install apps in them. These devices tell us when our apps are out of date. We've been installing apps into our businesses in the cloud for almost 20 years now, and we've never had a way to automatically know whether those packages are out of date. Hubbl Technologies is the first time we've ever been able to do this because of our unique aggregated view and anonymized view of the Salesforce ecosystem. And so what this allows us to do is tell you which packages are out of date, which is really critical because it helps you for security and compliance issues. Your CISO will be happy to know that your org is actually compliant. And we also extend this beyond just the normal AppExchange apps to those that are not even on the AppExchange itself. So think about this. As an admin, if you had to monthly, annually, whatever it is, analyze all of the packages in your org and see whether they're up to date, this can take you a huge amount of time because you would have to click to the AppExchange, search for every single one of those. Even if you went and searched and found them and did the 4 clicks to get to the version number, that version number is manually updated by the publishers on the platform, which means that it's oftentimes not even up to date. And so you can automate all of this with a couple minutes of effort using Hubbl technologies, and that allows you to identify your packages that are out of date, even for those ones that are not security reviewed and not on the AppExchange, which is a huge win because otherwise you'd be trying to track down the actual publisher themselves, and this is something that's oftentimes you can't even do. Looking across with the custom code security review, this is a really critical one, especially for those click-to-code admins who are hiring custom code developers. Like I said earlier, you are responsible for securing the custom code on your org. This is an executive level view of the Salesforce Code Analyzer results. If I dig into the security slice, I can actually see the frequency of the number of security issues that we've uncovered with this static code analysis. And what's incredible is that we have provided this available to all Salesforce customers for 2 years now. And this is something that you can do to go secure your org right now. Go create an account and analyze your org so that you can identify these custom code security issues. So for example, these SQL injection issues, we've identified the line item where these particular issues are. But what's incredible is that you don't need to understand and know what all these particular issues are and what all of these static code analysis codes actually mean. We actually roll these up into recommendations like I showed you earlier. We identify the severity of the issue that was created as well as the level of effort to address them. And this allows us to uncover these items that we might want to actually fix. So let's talk about actually fixing them. If I wanted to fix those SQL injection issues with our Swantide integration, I can go in and actually identify those particular pieces. Maybe the SQL injection issue, I don't want hackers stealing my PII information from my deal reg experience cloud. So now I can use the Swantide integration to actually automatically generate the custom code that can be used. So we have a pre-generated prompt that you can leverage to actually generate the custom code that will solve this particular issue for you. And the way you would leverage this is you would take your human developers to review the AI generated code and then use that to deploy and fix the particular issue. And like I showed you earlier, you can then track and monitor over time how you're solving those issues. It's truly incredible the amount of time and effort it would take. Actually, when I think about it, when we were at Dreamforce, we had people who were signing up at our product booth, creating their account in a couple minutes, setting up the Hubbl diagnostic scan, which takes about 30 minutes to run depending on the size of the org. And then they were able to generate the custom code, proposed custom code to fix their orgs all within hours. And this is typically a cycle that would take weeks to months. What's incredible about that is actually some of the a frequent question is often how long does it take to run a scan? It can take hours, and the reason it can take hours is because of field utilization. So in this particular org, we've actually got 1,000 objects in this org, and with a couple minutes of efforts of creating an account and setting up that scan, going off and doing some more work, getting the email notification that the scan is complete, we have run field utilization across 1,000 objects, and you get a full visualization of all of those fields. And if you're scheduling this, you're actually getting adoption from a field utilization perspective across your entire org, set up completely automatically. You can even go in and filter these. Just show me the custom fields, for example. Maybe show me the ones that aren't namespace, so they're not coming from packages. It's a common theme. There's all kinds of filtering capabilities in here to get an understanding of what's going on in your org. Now, one of the other key ones that's a huge time saver for admins is this concept of just getting an understanding of what's happening in undocumented code. undocumented metadata. So I'm showing you the object automation view here. Each one of these circles is an object in your org that has record trigger automation. Let's imagine we're working in Service Cloud on the case object here. Now I can see all my automations in a single view, the events they're firing on, whether they're active or not. But I don't know anything about this like Salesforce rewind case trigger. So now I can go in, use the pre-generated prompts to communicate with our AI assistant with Swantide and get a description of that particular piece of metadata that we can then deploy into the org or fill in the org so that now we have a better understanding of what's actually happening in this process. And when you're trying to resolve automations that are happening, very complex automations on complex objects like this and unraveling work that other people have done in the past, this is an absolutely massive time saver for you that helps you get a better understanding of your org straight out of the gate. So that gives you a sense of Hubbl Diagnostics and the way the platform works itself. There's also a multi-org monitoring view if you're actually tracking and if you have a multi-org environment, some organizations have 10, 12, over 100 Salesforce orgs, you can actually track the health of your org in a multi-org environment as well. But let's shift a little bit gears over to Hubbl Process Analytics. So Process Analytics is the App Exchange app. So you can grab this from the App Exchange. There's a free version that works on the case opportunity. But it also allows you to build processes for any custom object, any standard object, sequences of objects. You could build visualizations. If you can dream it, you can build it. And so, again, what I'm showing you here is the case object where you can view all of those different statuses. And that allows you to identify these bottlenecks where you might be digging in and getting an understanding of what's happening there. And then you can build your automation and do these comparison slices to get an understanding of what's going on. So I can build a set of visualizations. I can select the views that I actually want to visualize, and then I can compare those. And this is really powerful because it allows you to do change management, adoption. It's even useful for training. Look at agents who have been here for 3 months versus ones who've been there for a couple of years. You can do it in sales processes, and it's also really powerful for compliance. If you need compliance views, this allows you to get compliance views leveraging process analytics as well. All right, so with that, I think what we could do, I'm hoping that you've got a sense now about how you can leverage AI in your day-to-day, leveraging the Hubbl Technologies platform, as well as the Swantide integration that we announced just prior to Dreamforce. And the way to think about this is that if we have a sense of how Salesforce is leveraging AI with agents and Agentforce, now we can even think about business building, being empowered, and actually democratizing success. And again, I really want to thank all the ecosystem partners, the MVP community, all the admins, employees, the Salesforce employees, the hundreds of Salesforce employees that use Hubbl already, for working with us to bring this to life. We would not be here without you. And if you're not on board yet, we definitely invite you to join this community. For those who are interested in digging deeper more, feel free to reach out to me. We can set up some time if you want to do some solo conversations. If you're interested in getting an understanding of the Hubbl benchmark report, we actually have a webinar coming up at the end of October on the 24th. I'll be looking at year-over-year trends, much deeper dive into those top 10 custom objects, AI data cloud readiness ideas, and more. And if you want to just dig into the report itself, like I said earlier, you can check out hubbl.com/BMR to see all the results there right now. And so with that, I thank you for your time and attention. Really appreciate it, and looking forward to continuing the conversation and really helping everyone out there with this world of next generation Salesforce org management. Have a great one.